Mega Man X8 is a very interesting game to me. When I was younger, I really enjoyed it because it brings unique mechanics to the series that are pretty fun. It also has a certain mystique since it's the last game in the series. There's just something uniquely compelling about finales because they tie up long-running stories. However, in the past few years, my opinion of X8 has changed. I just view the game as okay now. It does a lot right, but it makes too many mistakes for me to like it. Let me explain in the final review of the Mega Man X retrospective. As always, before I get started, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really make my day. Thanks. X8 goes back to the core gameplay being 2D. I think we can all agree this was for the best after X7. Like that game, X, Axel, and Zero are the playable characters in a team of 2 for each level, but the partner mechanic has been improved. If one of the teammates takes damage, some of their health loss is shaded red. If you switch to the other character for a bit, the red health eventually restores itself, which gives you a good reason to use both characters. There's also this meter in the top left of the screen called the attack gauge. It increases by hitting enemies, and when it's filled up, you can unleash a double attack, where both characters fight together for massive damage, which helps with the boss fights. Some enemies can trap the player, but if you switch to your partner, that instantly frees you from those attacks. And if you die to an enemy as one character, you don't lose a life this time. Instead, the other character keeps playing and can even restore their partner by filling up the attack gauge. As you can see, the partner mechanic is more developed this time, and it makes the gameplay more interesting. This is the best innovation to the series since X4 added Zero. Another change is to the enemies themselves. Some of them have shields that make them invulnerable to normal attacks. This goes for certain boss fights too. Each character is uniquely equipped to break the shields, with Zero's last hit of the Z-Saber combo, X's charge shot, and Axel's bullets if fired for long enough. The controls are still great. Everyone feels smooth to play as, and movement has been sped up, which makes the game more fast-paced. X plays how you would expect him to, except his armor system has been changed again. Like X5 and X6, there's 2 separate armor sets, the Hermes armor and the Icarus armor, meaning you need to grab 8 light capsules again. But unlike those games, you can now use any part before completing the set, and you can even choose which individual parts X gets to use, allowing for more variety. You do get exclusive special moves if you wear the full sets though. The Icarus armor gets the Giga attack, and the Hermes armor gets the X-Drive ability that buffs X's stats until the meter runs out. I was never a big fan of these, and I think it's better to mix and match the parts. The best one is definitely the Icarus Buster parts that power up the X-Buster and let you fire off a giant laser. This looks awesome, but the laser actually isn't that strong, aside from breaking shields. And it's very laggy. The main benefit to these parts is it makes the non-fully charged shot, and even the basic pellets, really powerful. Most enemies and bosses get nuked by this one upgrade. My favorite combination of parts for X are the Hermes head parts for faster X-Buster charging, the Icarus body parts to cut my damage taken in half, the Icarus Buster parts for the stronger blasts, and the Hermes foot parts for faster speed and an invincible dash. This is a great armor system. My only complaint is you basically need to bring X to every level since the other characters still can't grab his upgrades. This isn't too bad because he's once again the best character, but that would have been a nice quality of life change. X's special weapons are not great though. Most of them are not satisfying to use and are weaker than the Icarus Buster parts. I barely touch these. Zero feels much better to play as than X7. His attacks have less lag, and he can once again get weapons. I didn't find much use for these, with one notable exception. The D-Glaive is a giant spear that basically lets Zero hit everything on the screen. This weapon is insane, especially when combined with the spinning technique you get from Dark Mantis. He is just a constant hitbox, it is wild. His other techniques are fine too, but come on, it's hard not to just use this one. Zero's double jump is also better utilized in this game for grabbing collectibles. Despite the buffs, I still prefer Axel over Zero in this game. He can now fire bullets in any direction and continually shoot them if you hold down the square button. No need to enable that in the options menu like X7. The copy shot is now much faster, so it's easier to use when you need it for collectibles. Axel's special weapons are good too. Because he constantly fires shots, he has unlimited ammo for these. My favorites are the Ice Gatling gun that fires faster shots, and the Ray gun, which is a lifesaver when you're grinding and is helpful for the final boss. Plus his hover is great for the challenging platforming sequences. I really like using Axel. The devs did a good job improving on his gameplay from X7, and the result is a cool character who feels fresh. The boss fights are solid in this game. They feel weird at first since they have more invincibility than usual, but they're well designed fights. When their health gets low, they unleash their overdrive attacks. These do more damage than the regular attacks, and the bosses are completely invulnerable during them, so watch out. What I like about these battles is you're constantly encouraged to swap characters when you take damage, and you want to keep both characters alive because the double attack is very useful since it takes out a sizable chunk of their health bar. There's a bit more strategy in these boss fights than usual. So far in this review, I've been very positive because X8 does a lot right, but it sadly does a lot wrong as well. A currency system has been added where you collect medals in stages and use them to buy items in the shop called the R&D lab. Aside from the light capsules, every upgrade in the game is in this shop, most notably the health upgrades. And those are very important in this game because if you're playing on hard mode, all 3 characters are made of paper at first. I haven't talked about hard modes much in these reviews because I always play these games on normal mode. But in X8, the final level changes depending on what difficulty you select, so I always play this game on hard. The issue with the shop is most of the upgrades are pretty expensive. This means you have to grind for medals, which sucks. The best way to play this game is choose Earthrock Trilobite first. The stage opens with you being slowly chased by a robot, but after damaging it, now you have to chase the robot. If you shoot him with Axel's bullets, he will drop a ton of medals you can use in the shop to quickly upgrade health for your characters. The problem is this gets boring fast, and I had to do it multiple times. The worst instance was at the end of the game, where the damage reduction upgrades for Axel that I needed cost a ludicrous amount, even with the discount chip. Eventually when grinding here, you'll run out of lives and have to go back to the shop to buy more. X8 brings back game overs returning you to the start of the level. The way this works is your lives are called retry chips that you have to buy in the shop, and in hard mode, you only get 3 of these, and there's no EX tank in this game. Anyway, when you come back to grind in this level, you have to replay the first long chase sequence again. Isn't that fun? It took me 5 hours to beat this game, and I grinded in this one stage for roughly 30 minutes. That means I spent 10% of my playtime just doing this. Items should have been much less expensive in my opinion, and some shouldn't cost medals at all. Some items like the life ups are included in the default shop, but most of them require rare medals. These are the main collectibles in X8. You find them in the stages, and then when you go to the R&D lab, now Zero can buy his fan weapon if you have enough medals to purchase it. I missed when collecting an item immediately gave it to me. Now I have to collect it, grind a lot of medals, and then purchase it. It's not fun, and it overcomplicates the gameplay. To be fair, the shop system isn't all bad. I like most of the upgrades, such as the 2 life bottles you can buy at default that are basically 1 sub-tank and can later be upgraded to 2 life tanks. Another good one is the prickle barrier that stops spikes from killing you but leaves you with only 1 health point left. I think the shop mechanic could have been good with a few tweaks. Unfortunately, that isn't my only issue with X8. The levels in this game kinda suck. Literally every stage has a gimmick. Like Troya Base has a series of dull combat challenges that are ranked based on how fast you beat them, Inferno has 3 boring auto-scrolling sections, and then there are the 2 vehicle stages. Both of these are the only parts of the game in 3D, and they're so annoying. In Dynasty, you chase after the boss and have to shoot him down, but it's so hard to hit him, especially with all the obstacles in the way. And the controls aren't customizable here. I have to dash with the circle button, even though I have my dash in regular gameplay set to L1. Luckily I beat this on my first try this playthrough, but I do not like this stage at all. Yet, I still like it more than Central White. The controls in this level are better, but the stage drags on for way too long. And they make you fight the same mini-boss twice to pad it out. I'd be fine with the gimmicky stages if they were fun, but almost none of them are. The only exception is Pitch Black. The gimmick here is the lights are out, which gives the stage some atmosphere. I also enjoyed the obstacle of dodging these searchlights, or else enemies will appear and attack you. It's a good stage. I kinda liked Primrose too, which is a compliment, because I usually don't enjoy anti-gravity stages. But it's a bit too spike happy for me to give it a thumbs up. And this room where you have to dodge crushing blocks with spikes on them is horrible. I'm confused why the developers had to put a gimmick in every level. What's even weirder is in some stages, you're locked in a room with weak enemies you have to kill for 30 seconds. It's not hard or interesting in the slightest. I know they're trying to pad out the levels, but this is so lazy. I'm gonna stress that I don't hate these stages, but they're not fun, and some of them get on my nerves, mainly when it comes to the item game. X8 is yet another game with a backtracking problem if you want to collect most or all the rare medals. Take for example Troya Base. After you complete the challenges in the stage, you get a rare medal if you got the highest rank on all of them. Plus a battle with Cutman from Mega Man 1 is unlocked. Makes sense, right? but you also get a rare medal if you didn't get the highest rank on at least one of the challenges. So if you want to complete the stage, you need to play it twice. One time playing very well, and the other time not playing well. Why not just give you both rare medals if you got the highest rank on all of the challenges? Instead, you're rewarded for playing bad. What a dumb reason to replay a stage. Inferno has a similar issue. All 3 characters are needed to get upgrades here. Axel's copy ability gets him into this room with a rare medal, X opens the light capsule containing the Hermes foot parts, and Zero breaks this floor with his hammer weapon so he can obtain a rare medal. Of course, you can only have 2 characters in a team, so you have to backtrack to 100% this stage. Another complaint I have is to get many rare medals, you need specific upgrades. For instance, if you want to 100% pitch black without backtracking, you first need to bring Axel, who can get into the room with this generator thanks to his copy ability. Then you need to have beaten Dynasty to power up the generator in the level, which somehow lowers some platforms. Next, you need Earthrock Trilobite's weapon to get this rare medal. After that, you need the Icarus foot parts from Bamboo Pandemonium stage, so X can jump onto this platform and reach the last rare medal. Finally, X can grab the Hermes body parts. To complete the level in one go, you needed to have beat 2 Mavericks and gotten X's foot parts in a 3rd Maverick stage. And Pitch Black is the level you want to do early because it has the life tank, the deglaive, and Zero's spinning technique. So the routing also isn't very flexible in X8. This is what I mean when I say this game is just fine. It has a lot of great features, but it also has glaring issues that stop me from having much fun. Some new characters have been added to the Maverick Hunter team. Meet Lair and Pallet. These 2 are navigators along with Alia, and you can choose which one of the 3 you want guiding you through stages. Lair gives you advice on boss fights, Pallet hints at where collectibles are, and Alia can do both, but is less detailed. Pallet is definitely the most useful of the 3, since some collectibles are hidden in weird places. I think this is a fine system, and it's not forced on you, because you can choose to go through stages with no navigator if you want. The last thing about the gameplay to mention is Vile has returned, and he shows up a few times to fight you. The first time is always after you beat 2 Mavericks, so here's a tip. Do Primrose 3rd, so you fight Vile here, because the battle skips over this terrible death trap room. The graphics are a step up from X7. The character models look better, and so do the textures, although there still are a lot of ugly ones in this game. These later X games had to have smaller budgets, right? The music in this game is phenomenal. I noticed there's more emphasis on guitars, which I think was a great choice. Almost every song is good, and it's hard to choose my favorites. I really like the Jacob Elevator theme, Booster Forest song when you're in the ride armor, and the J-Rock theme Wild Fang. I listened to this song so much in high school. It's so good. I like the soundtrack as much as X1 and X5. The music in the X series definitely ends on a high note. It feels crazy to say, but the voice acting in this game is solid. For the first time, every character sounds appropriate, and it actually let me focus on what was going on in the plot, besides how terrible all the line deliveries are. The guy who voices Vile does the best job in my opinion. He really sells how evil the character is.
The world as you know it, Mavericks, kiss it all goodbye. Mayhem, doom, and destruction. That's what we were built for.
Vile's just a pro hater in the same league as Sephiroth, the Green Goblin, and Newman. You know, the big 3. The story of X8 is after all the Reploid rebellions, the humans have decided to move to the moon via the Jacob Project and Orbital Elevator. New generation Reploids are essential in this effort, with each of them containing copy chips that let them transform into other Reploids like Sigma. The director of the project is this person called Lumine, who's introduced to us smiling while surrounded by Sigma copies with flames behind him. I wonder if this guy is evil. Nah, no way. In the intro level, Vile kidnaps Lumine, and then a couple new generation Reploids go Maverick, so it's up to the hunters to fight them and rescue Lumine. Along the way, we learn these Reploids shouldn't have been able to go Maverick because they're immune to all viruses. We also learn that Axel is a prototype for the new generation Reploids, which is why they both have the copy ability. That's the basic premise of the story. I'm happy this game makes X likable again. He's proactive in fighting the Mavericks this time, and even when he complains about the war, he quickly realizes that the way to end it is to fight instead of just whining. God, X7's story was so bad. Zero also gets some decent scenes where he talks about how it bothers him that Sigma used his DNA to create the Sigma virus. X8 has some direct references to the poem Paradise Lost, which is about the fall of man in the time of Adam and Eve. I've never read it myself, but I just wanted to point that out. It's time for the endgame, the last levels in the series. The Maverick Hunters realize earlier than usual Sigma is behind this plan and he reveals himself once all 8 Mavericks are beaten. He's on the moon, and the heroes need to take the Jacob elevator to reach him. This stage is potentially the most gimmicky in the whole game, and that's saying a lot. The level is an auto-scroller, where you ride up the elevator and kill enemies. That is all you do for 4 minutes. It's so boring and easy, because the deglaive annihilates almost everything on screen. The music rocks, but it can't save this dull level. You fight Vile at the end, and then it's on to Gateway. This is the boss rush, and I like how the transporters are color-coded to each Maverick, and that this is a separate stage from where you fight the final boss. But it still sucks, because it's just recycled content. At the end, you fight Sigma, but it turns out it was just a new generation Reploid copying him. The final boss is tough in this game, so here's where I recommend you grind for medals to get all the damage reduction upgrades you need. The last level is Sigma's palace on the moon. First you do some platforming, and then you fight Vile for the last time. Here's where the different difficulties matter. On hard mode, Vile traps the character who didn't defeat him in the room, and you need to do the next section solo. This part's pretty fun. The Sigma enemies here are bulky and hit hard, so you need to be careful on how you fight them. Then at the end, you have to navigate around these spikes. I really like using Axel here because of his hover ability. Eventually we make it to the throne room and meet Sigma, who is not looking as great as we expected. I guess all the resurrections have been taking a toll on his body. On hard mode, you start the fight off fighting him solo, but eventually he grabs you in a cutscene and you're saved by the other teammate. Now the fight really begins. Sigma has fast attacks with big hitboxes, so he can be hard to dodge. He's weak to Axel's ray gun and does not like the Icarus Buster parts. It's definitely a tough fight, but I got through it. And with that, Sigma dies for the last time. Yeah, that's it for him. Then we meet Lumine, and things get interesting. He reveals that he was the true mastermind behind this plan. Did anyone else used to think Lumine was a girl? He looks like one, Lumine is a strange name for a guy, and they gave him a female voice actor. The rest of the battle is against Lumine, and you get a new checkpoint here. His first phase is very simple. He flies around the screen and only attacks you with the overdrive attacks from the Maverick bosses, so you should already know how to dodge them. Beating this phase reveals how Lumine and the other new generation Reploids rebelled. Their copy chips contain data from older Reploids, including Sigma. That little bit of Sigma DNA gave these Reploids the choice to go Maverick at will, and they took it. Lumine's plan is to create a new world where the new generation Reploids rule. I want to pause for a second to praise Lumine as a character. I think he has a cool design, looks really creepy in the cutscenes, and the voice actress does a good job at making him menacing. He's definitely one of the coolest characters in the series in my opinion. X and Zero doubt if they can stop Lumine, but Axel shoots him, and they decide to fight. We're now at the last phase, where Lumine becomes a Final Fantasy god monster, and he can definitely give you a game over if you get hit too much or don't have the right upgrades. He has a ton of attacks, but I've played this game quite a bit, so I had a comfortable time dodging them. Shout out to the Hermes foot parts for the invincible dash that helped me avoid some of his weird moves. When his health gets low, he initiates Paradise Lost, where the screen continuously blackens, and if it goes completely dark, you'll instantly lose. At the same time, he armors himself up, so make sure to break through it, and then when he's vulnerable, hit him with the double attack. I've never lost to this part, but it's definitely stressful. This is one of my favorite final battles in the series, particularly the last phase. It's fun, challenging, and a cool way to end the game. With one last shot, Lumine goes down, and we've beaten X8. Lumine warns that the rebellion won't stop with him, and as he lays there dying, he attacks Axel with a tentacle, I guess he has, before X finishes him for good. The ending is slightly different depending on who killed Lumine. X and Zero reflect on what Lumine said, with Zero vowing to continue fighting no matter what. It parallels the endings of X4, where X and Zero also returned to Earth from space, and both feared that they could go Maverick. Now Zero's saying that they'll still fight against the Mavericks, even if most Reploids choose that path. I like that the series ends with X and Zero staying true to their ideology, which continues into the Mega Man Zero series. The most interesting ending is Axel's, where a post-credit scene hints that Lumine lives on inside of him. After the credits, we're told the new generation Reploids kept on being produced even after Lumine's rebellion. So the X series ends on a cliffhanger that 20 years later has not been resolved. Don't you just hate when that happens? Overall, the story in this game is solid compared to the other games in the series. I'm sure there's plot holes I could pick apart, but I enjoyed watching it play out, and everyone was written in character this time. Plus, it was nice to finally have a game without Sigma as the main villain. My biggest complaint about the story is the cliffhanger with Axel is annoying, but I think we can just assume that he fought X and Zero and they saved him. Even if they killed him, he could always come back as long as he hit himself while he tried to repair himself. After you beat the game, New Game Plus is available where you keep your upgrades and rare medals so you can buy more items in the shop. By using cheat codes or fulfilling some specific requirements, you can unlock the ultimate armor for X, the black armor for Zero, a cool looking white armor for Axel, and you can play as the navigators. They're just skins for the 3 main characters, but I think this is a cool feature. They cost an insane amount in the shop though, and why do even the cheat code characters need to be purchased? Now I'm sure some of you are expecting me to talk about the Mega Man X8 16-bit demake right now, but I already did that months ago, so I'm just going to link the video in the description. Basically the demake fixes almost all of my problems with the original, and it's a fantastic game. I would highly recommend it. So that was Mega Man X8. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. There's so many great ideas here like the customizable armor sets, Axel's gameplay, and the partner mechanic. But the stages suck due to gimmicks that aren't fun, backtracking for upgrades, and grinding so I can buy those upgrades. So all that balances out to a game that's just alright in my opinion. Since we're now done with all the X games, I thought it would be fun to quickly rank them from best to worst. At number 8 we have X7 because the gameplay is boring and awful. Next up at number 7 is X6 where the gameplay is terrible, but at least it's not boring. Number 6 is going to be controversial, but I'm going with X3. I found this game to not be very fun, especially because the early game is so hard. I think if I played the game more, my opinion could improve, so I think X3 has the most potential to rise in the list. At number 5 is X8, for all the reasons I just spent 20 minutes talking about. Number 4 is X5, which is a very flawed game, particularly with the backtracking, but it's still fun to play through, especially with Zero. Number 3 is X2, which is just a great sequel, where most of my issues are small. At number 2, we have the original Mega Man X. This game is a masterpiece, and the only reason it's not higher is because number 1 is Mega Man X4, which is one of my top 5 games of all time. I love this game so much because it nails everything, but above all, it's always a blast to play through. And that's my ranking. Leave your own in the comments. I'd be curious to read them. I put it in this tier list format too because I think some games are closer than others in quality. At long last, we're at the end. We never got a sequel to X8, probably due to declining sales and an oversaturation of Mega Man games on the market. I would like there to be an X9, but honestly the X8 cliffhanger isn't that interesting, and X and Zero stories do continue in the Mega Man Zero series, so I'm okay if we never get that game. Looking back at the X series, you definitely see a big drop in quality after X4, which is a shame, but the later games still have redeeming qualities, and at the very least, they're fascinating to talk about. And if you play the new ROM hacks, they're all much more enjoyable now. It was so much fun discussing the series I love and my relationship with each game. I put so much passion and time into this project, and I really appreciate that people have enjoyed watching it. Sorry I didn't cover the spin-offs, but I might get around to those one day. When I return to Mega Man games, I'll probably review the classic series. As for what's next with this channel, I'm gonna keep it a secret for now. Stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching this retrospective. Sayonara.